In this episode, we talk embryos, nails, and 2024 legislation. Ready, set, go.
No information obtained from the following production is legal advice and does not create an attorney-client relationship with the law office IAJ, Law LLC, or any attorney or professional appearing on this program. You should consult an attorney for individualized advice regarding your own situation or specific legal concerns.
Broadcasting from Edina, Minnesota, your host, Attorney Jasper Berg. #Jasper.
Why, hello there. I am your host, Attorney Jasper Berg. This is Season 17, Episode number 3. I am grateful for you coming back for a little bit more. Maybe we can connect. And I don't know, are you reading the newspaper like I'm reading the newspaper? Maybe you're not even reading the newspaper and you're just using your cellular device. And you came across an article in the Star Tribune. I'll get to that article here in just a second. Caught my attention. But it is baseball season. It is baseball season. And, you know, how does baseball play into a law practice? Very good question. Of course it does. And I don't know if you are familiar with a player who we called Nails. Some people called him Dude. He was aggressive. He was an aggressive player. Earned some World Series with his teams. And he made the news this week. Of course, I'm referring to outfielder Lenny Dykstra. Well, Lenny Dykstra is just one of those players where people are attracted to him. Maybe because of his aggressiveness. And that aggressiveness has carried on to other things in his life after baseball. And he recently had a heart attack. And was admitted into a hospital. And, of course, seeing this, sent out a tweet. Hey, Lenny Dykstra, I hope you have your healthcare directive updated. Now, if you didn't know who I am, you might say, oh, boy, you know, what does that have to do with anything right now? He's going into the hospital. He just needs to get better. I agree. And, but I hope he has his healthcare directive. And you probably didn't even notice this news headline. But a few days later, somebody had said, you know, Lenny Dykstra doing much better. And, there's Lenny making some comments about the attractiveness of his healthcare providers. The staff helping him get better. Oh, there's that Lenny. Making those outrageous comments about his staff being attractive. Now, at first glance, you might say, geez, come on, Lenny. Calm down. Let's just get better. Let's get you out of the hospital. Let's not be creating any sort of romances between you and the hospital staff. But if you've ever been in a hospital setting, and I know you have, whether for yourself, a loved one, a parent, or a grandparent, when they start joking, you've probably seen this firsthand. When they start joking about, the food is horrible, or, that doctor or nurse, they're appealing to the eye. Or they make these witty jokes. You kind of sort of get a clue that, you know what? My loved one, they're doing okay. They're doing okay. That emotion of attraction or dislike, distaste, it's a signal that they're moving towards the right direction. Now, if you compare that to a person who is moving in the opposite direction, towards hospice care, or their demise, you generally don't see these types of comments. You might see comments of, I'm not going to eat anymore, I'm not hungry. That's a different comment versus, The food here is horrible. If I have one more scoop of Jell-O, somebody get me a hamburger, please. As a family member, as an agent to a healthcare directive, I want to see those types of comments. Now, if COVID has taught us anything, it's that these human relationships are very, very significant. And you don't need to listen to me to know that. But this idea of attraction, let's just pretend you were in a healthcare facility and you were going to be there for quite some time. And it's very normal for you to want to engage in companionship. Maybe with your own spouse, maybe on some other relationship status. I don't know what that might be. But believe it or not, our healthcare directives can include and address companionship. And in fact, as a healthcare agent, I have to be looking for this. And if it's in your directive, it is your duty to make sure that those relationships are cultivated. Whatever that relationship is defined as. So even though, you're looking at the news, you see this baseball player, he's long gone, he's not going to be playing baseball anytime soon, recovering from a heart attack, that's horrible. I don't know. I saw some legal issues here in these news articles that really drive home the idea that, Lenny's teaching us something about healthcare directives. I don't know, just a thought. All right, well, thank you again for joining me. If you want to reach out, give me a call, 952-222-9462. I am your host, Attorney Jasper Berg. And, golly, so many news articles came out in the last 36 hours that just, you either want to pull your hair out or you want to start cheering. And it really doesn't even matter what side you're on. The unfortunate part as a practitioner is that I'm often put in a position to clarify the stupidity that people read in the newspaper. Let me give you a couple of examples. Example number one. The recent article in the Star Tribune highlighted or titled something to the effect of 2024 law changes. By now, I'm sure the AI has turned this headline into multiple formats. And if you're just reading headlines, and I hope you're not, but if you did, you quickly click on and you run through it quickly because, of course, very big, bold titles and headings, subheadings. And you're looking at all these laws. And some of these laws are going to make you want to pull your hair out. Some of these laws you're going to get excited about. Some of these laws, I'll come back to that. Some of these laws are creatively drafted for people probably to fail to understand what it means. I'm, of course, addressing the North Star Act. Hey, we live in Minnesota. We're a northern state. We used to have a team called the North Stars. And then someone, came up with this clever rule. They want to call it the North Star Act. Seems I'm already on board just by the name. And then perhaps if you get into the details, you find out, maybe not. Maybe not. But here's the problem with all these rules and statutes. Well, they're not statutes. They're just fodder. It's just nonsense. That this article it's just there to fill up space. It's annoying. Because perhaps you're just kind of clicking through, searching through, looking at things. Am I caught up to date? And at first glance, you're going to think, these laws all must be in place. And they're not. In fact, None of them are. It's just nonsense to fill up space and talk about what if and how so. Came up with some very clever graphics. Who's voting on this? Who's voting on that? Where do people stand? And at the end of the day, these laws and rule suggestions are not in play yet. But that's the hard part of a planner. You're trying to create documents that stick around and address all these nonsense type things that get thought up in the future. Whether that is from a tax code perspective, an asset protection perspective, some sort of tort perspective, my health, all these things. And wouldn't you know it, there's a rule out there that they are talking about. It's only, of course, described using 3 or 4 sentences in very, very big text, even on my small cellular device. And if you've ever seen a full statute, you know that there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of words, usually divided up into chapters, usually further divided up into divisions, subdivisions, all kinds of things. But there was this suggestion that there's a law that's going to come out, or at least be voted on, called End of Life Options Act. Basically identifying an opportunity for assisted suicide here in Minnesota. Now, whether you're against this or for this, it really probably matters more on what your healthcare directive says. And your healthcare directive might go out of its way to say, you know what? Move me to a state or country that allows for end-of-life options that favor fill in the blank. That might be in there. Or you might say, you know what? My faith frowns upon, in fact, even identifies it as damning to even consider assisted death options near end of life. As an attorney, an advocate, drafting these types of documents, it's not really my decision. In fact, it is not my decision. It is the client's decision. I'm advocating on behalf of that person. What does that person want? What do they need? What do they foresee? So, End of Life Options Act, maybe you saw it in the Star Tribune. Maybe you also saw that there's some other rules and laws that are out there, and you're keeping track at home. I don't know why you would be. But if you were, maybe you saw some value in taking a second look at that and how it applies to your healthcare directive. With that, we'll be right back. All right. I got some flack that I didn't finish my story about my family dog. And I will get to that, I assure you. But there was another case, another news article that came out that is wild. And I normally wouldn't even bring this up, except it was decided by a Supreme Court. Alabama's Supreme Court came up with some sort of ruling identifying frozen embryos as a child or children. Frozen embryos will be considered children in the state of Alabama. Now, if you saw this article, you might think, oh my goodness, I donated some frozen embryos. I created an estate plan a few years ago, and now I have to go back and account for all the children that I didn't know that I have. What are you going to do about that? I agree. This is an unbelievable type decision. Does it apply here in Minnesota? Is somebody going to make that argument? Here's the word to remember. when someone starts talking frozen embryos, the word to remember, or at least ask, on whether or not frozen embryos are indeed or should be identified as children, the word is standing. Standing. Who has standing to seek and sue on behalf of that frozen embryo? Do your unborn children, are they going to go to a courthouse and start identifying legal remedies to a certain situation? Is that frozen embryo going to lean on the support of their born sibling? Is that sibling older than the age of 18 and older? Or maybe they're relying on a parent, but did that parent get killed in a car crash and now we need to defer to grandparents? Or, oh my goodness, this is wild and crazy. Should your estate planning documents be addressing frozen embryos now that the Supreme Court in Alabama has gone above and beyond of what perhaps legal scholars there may have decided upon? Well, I think it's always a good idea to take a look at estate planning documents on a regular basis. This is a perfect time of year, time of season to address that. Tax season. Maybe you've already completed your taxes. Maybe you're looking at getting that done here in the next few weeks. But a good time to readdress any planning documents you have because, well, you already kind of have that frame of mind. But fascinating stuff. So if you get a chance, take a look and kind of meet with your practitioner on whether or not you think perhaps that case impacts your planning documents. Son of a gun. I ran out of time again. I desperately had to get to this dog story, or at least complete the story. And now I'm hearing the closing song. I'm going to get to that. I promise. I appreciate your time and attention. And I hope you have a great day. See you. Bye.
Jasper thanks you for listening. Please subscribe or share this production.